Okay, there's been a lot of talk about Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic on PSVR2 over the last 24 hours, and for quite good reason. So, is it being delayed? Is it being cancelled? That's what we're here to talk about today, and why even are we speculating about these things? Well, there's a pretty good reason. But before we get into it, only 25% of you are subscribed, so please feel free to do so, and thank you to our patrons and YouTube members for keeping the channel going day after day and week after week. With that being said, let's have a look at the evidence of why FNAF Secret of the Mimic is probably in some sort of limbo at the time being in terms of its VR support. I'd say the alarm bells started going off a little bit a couple nights ago when we were watching the state of play. For the other two PSVR2 games in the showcase, we had PSVR2 tags on them, that is the Midnight Walk and Dreams of Another. Both of them came up on the splash screen at the end with PS5 and PSVR2. However, that wasn't the case for FNAF Secret of the Mimic. It was just PS5. However, those worries were put to bed when Sony tweeted about the game the next day. They included the PSVR2 hashtag saying you can play through the entire game with the headset, which I wish I'd screenshotted. I'm sorry I don't have that, but they did post that. A lot of people can corroborate that tweet did exist. However, a couple of hours later, they deleted this tweet and replaced it with a new one, just saying PS5. The PSVR2 mentions were gone. So does this mean that the PSVR2 port of the game is cancelled? I don't think so. Steelwool on their website is still pushing for VR. They like VR as a medium, as a platform, and I just don't think they're going to go and abandon that for this game when they promised PSVR2 support in the past. The second piece of evidence for them not cancelling this is the fact that the Five Nights at Freddy's content creators who have played the game have played it on PSVR2. They've played several sections of it, all with the Sense controllers and headset, and it would just be a bit misleading to have those two vertical slices be playable on PSVR2, show it off to the world for the first time through the headset, and then it not actually be playable upon launch. Or at least upon launch of the VR mode, which is what I think will happen here. So no, I don't think it's cancelled. I think they've probably put enough resources into the VR mode to pull it off by this point. I just think that maybe they're focusing on polishing the game up before getting that VR implementation fully done for maybe after launch at some point, so we won't be getting the VR mode in June when the game comes out. We could be looking at a Resident Evil 8 type of situation where the VR mode will come a bit later. Granted, that's because the headset wasn't out at 8's launch, but I think the time frame could be similar, where we get it a little bit more down the line once they polish it up and it's ready to go. That would probably be the moment that I jump in and play the game, because ultimately I haven't been a Five Nights at Freddy's fan for quite a long time. But if it's in VR, I'll happily give it a go. It's also got to be said that I think this is going to be a free update. I don't think they're going to charge a DLC price for this. I think we're looking at the same thing that happened with Help Wanted as well, just in reverse. So when Help Wanted came out, it was a VR game. Steelwool were pushing VR for FNAF, and then after that, Help Wanted you can actually boot up on your PS5 and play it in the flat. It feels a little bit weird because the game was made for VR first, but it's a perfectly playable flat screen game with a lot of fun mini-games that you can just play with a normal controller. The opposite can be said here for Secret of the Mimic. I think it's going to come out as a flat screen game, playable fully on controller, but there are clearly VR AF mechanics on the trailers that they showed off, which just makes sense for it to be a VR game. So later on down the line, the VR mode comes out, people can jump in and play it with their PSVR2s, and everybody's happy. Whether or not the game will be playable in VR on other platforms like Steam is yet to be seen, but if not, then this can make for a pretty good PSVR2 exclusive, don't you think? Steelwool's track record with Help Wanted, though, probably leans towards it being VR playable on other platforms, but they seem to be pretty strongly linked with Sony at the moment, so you never know. Anyway, that's all for today's short video. We'll be back tomorrow with the promised walkabout video with that accessory that I was talking about the other day. That's been put off for a little while just because there's been so much going on, but we should get a little bit of time to breathe tomorrow. What do you think though? Do you think the game is delayed in terms of the VR port? Do you think it's cancelled altogether? I see some people saying that Aces of Thunder is cancelled as well. Trust me, it's not, at least to my knowledge at the moment. Same can be said here. I think this is going to be fine. We'll probably just get it a little bit later. Steel will like VR, they like it as a medium, and I think that's going to continue with this game. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.